I am excited that I get to talk with you a little bit about your story and how your story has actually impacted me. I know we were just chatting and we both discovered this together.
Right.
But I remember hearing your story for the first time. I'm assuming it was for the first time when I was about 10 years old. You came and spoke at the school that I was attending, and you shared about this trial that you went through and how God used that in your life and how he was faithful. And that left a lasting imprint on me. And so if you would be willing, would you share a little bit about what God brought you through?
Well, he brought me through a tremendous tragedy in my life that blindsided our whole family. My husband and my son died in our airplane, and suddenly, and it left me in a lot of trouble financially and emotionally, and our whole family, financially and emotionally. But basically, it took me 16 years to finally write the things I went through, and the reason I wrote it was because I want everyone to know that no matter what you go through, God is there. He's going to take you through the waters. He's never going to leave you or forget you, and he's going to find a way to bring you through tragedy. Even when you think your life is over, it's not. It's not over. He has a plan, and so that's why I wrote the book.
It's a powerful story, and you titled the book Harvest of Joy.
Yeah.
And I forgot that was the title of the book, but I do remember when you came and spoke when I was younger, you spoke specifically on joy and happiness. Mm-hmm. And so for 20 years now, since
Yes.
I first heard that story, this testimony specifically has been the story that God has used to continue to encourage my own source of joy, that he is my source of joy. James 1:2-4, consider it pure joy when you face
Yes.
trials. I think of this because of what it's developed in you, and then what your faithfulness to God in that brought about in me. And so can you share some of the ways that God worked through that time? What produced so much joy in you?
That's amazing, Eden. I think I don't even need to say anything further. You're the stamp of approval for this whole thing being written. I want people to know that in tragedy, through tragedy, God is our joy. He's our strength. He's our Redeemer. He's our Savior. I actually pictured myself climbing up in his lap every day and throwing my arms around his neck saying, God, it's me and you. When I went home from church that Sunday morning after the song was sung, I dreamed of a city called heaven, and I lost it. And I got home and I threw my head on the steering wheel and I said, God, if it's just me and you, please start talking, because I don't want to live in a single relationship. And he's been faithful to do that. And through talking with him, you can have joy. You can feel joy, and you can live joy, even though it's sorrow.
Wow. Like sitting here tearing up just thinking about it. I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, going through those hard times and
Right.
wanting so desperately to hear from the Lord. And what were some of the ways that God did speak to you and meet you?
Okay, well, through people in the church. I mean, when this happened, I'm not a farmer. I'm a brownie baker. But the men in the church came forward and they took an area to see me through. They each decided to take an area, many men, like financial. There were 2 lawyers. There was an entrepreneur in land development. There was a farmer who would help with the plow down. There was a farmer that took the equipment to John Deere. And because John Deere loved my husband so much, they said, you bring us the equipment, we will refurbish them, we will paint them, we will sell them, and every dime will go to her debt.
Wow.
Because of the love they had for my husband. So I also want to say that men of the church and men of the families, you have a big responsibility to uphold a reputation for your family, because what comes behind them is going to be seen and heard and witnessed and followed.
hearing the way that the church supported you and loved you is a powerful reminder too, that the church is the hands and feet of God. So God caring for you and loving you was through the church.
It's your best bank account. I had no money, but I had church. I had friends, I had family, I had love. I had no home after a year, and these people sitting here watching this going, yeah, she slept in my house a few times. But he brought me through all of that and restored what they say the locust steals, you know. So I am happy today, so happy. And I can tell this story because it tells of the goodness of God. His mercy follows after me, is following after me. I sing that a lot because his mercy followed after me and took me through the depths of being sued, being taken to court. Everything that could happen happened because we were insured, totally insured in every area, Eden. My husband saw to that. But loopholes, not one insurance policy paid.
Wow.
And it's in the book. But because of that, the sadness and the destruction went deeper than you can even imagine.
Wow. So what caused you to write it all down in a book?
Well,
reliving it all.
That's an interesting question. I refused to write it for years. People kept saying, you've got to write these things down. And finally, at the grandparenting meeting that we had 3 years ago, I think it is now, Mark Fuller came up to me and he said, okay, Jan, time to write your story. So he nudged me, and I went up and talked to the leader of that conference, and he gave my information to a lady whose name is on this book. She phoned me and she said, I think you have a story to write. And she took on my case. But I want to tell you, the last story, the last chapter of this book was written in our cabin that summer, 2 summers ago. And I had just finished and turned it in that evening to her, this book. And that night our cabin burned down. And so I'm thinking that's one thing that God wanted the story written, and I turned it in the night that my computer burned down, everything burned down, and the story would have been lost.
He wanted the story told.
He did.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with me 20 years ago.
Eden, you are a delightful lady. I'm just overwhelmed at the fact that this has impacted your life, and that's the only reason I wrote it, for you.
Yeah, it's a huge testimony, and God's using it. He's used it in the past, and he's going to continue to use it.
Thank you,
so,
Eden.
thank you for telling
So
your story.
Precious. Thank you.